And we're live.
Welcome everyone, bienvenidos todos to this Good Friday Liturgy, la Liturgia del Viernes Santo. Welcome to everyone by Zoom. Bienvenidos todos los que están viendo en Facebook. Ask the congregation, please. Blessed be our God. Forever and ever. Let us pray together. Almighty God, we pray graciously to behold this your family, for whom our Lord Jesus Christ was willing to be betrayed and given into the hands of sinners, and to suffer death upon the cross, who now lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever.
A reading from Isaiah. See, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and lifted up, and shall be very high. Just as there were many who were astonished at him, so marvelous his appearance, beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of mortals. So he shall startle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which had not been told them they shall see, and that which they had not heard they shall contemplate. Who has believed what we have heard, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by others, a man of suffering and acquainted with infirmity. And as one from whom others hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him of no account. Surely he was borne our infirmities and carried our diseases. Yet we accounted him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that made us whole, and by his bruises we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have all turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like the lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. But a provision of justice he was taken away. Who could have imagined his future? For he was cut off from the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people. They made his grave with the wicked and his tomb with the rich, although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him with pain. When you make his life an offering for sin, he shall see his offspring and shall prolong his days. Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper. Out of the anguish he shall see light. He shall find satisfaction through his knowledge. The righteous one, my servant, shall make many righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will allot him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured him out himself to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and many intercession for the transgressors. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Let us read together the words of the Psalm 22, each in our own tongue. My God, why have you forsaken me? ¿Por qué no vienes a salvarme? ¿Por qué no atiendes a mis lamentos? Dios mío, día y noche te llamo. No hay descanso para mí. Tú eres santo. Tú reinas alabado por Israel. Nuestros padres confiaron en ti, confiaron en tu gloria. Te pidieron ayuda y les diste tu mano. confiar en ti y no en la maldad. Pero yo no soy humano, sino humano. Soy más querido. Los que me ven se burlan de mí, me hacen cuentas fuera de la cabeza. Y dicen, este confiaba en el Señor, pues que el Señor lo vive. Yo he dado que lo salve. Y así es, tú me hiciste nacer de mi madre. En tu pecho me hiciste descansar. Desde antes que yo naciera, he puesto bajo tu cuidado desde el vientre de mi madre, mi Dios eres tú. No te alejes de mí, pues estoy al borde de la angustia y no tengo quien me ayude. Pues en el enemigos enrollaron como bravos tomas de los santos. Mujer como leones sobre los feroces, abre la boca y se lanza contra mí. Soy como agua que se derrama, mis huesos están dislocados, mi corazón será de con la boca seca como una teja, con el pegada a mano, de azul y rojas del polvo, como perros, la banda de hermanos y me rodean por tu puedo cortarme los huesos, mis enemigos no se quitan a la vista de mí. Se han repartido mi ropa y así, y sobre ella echan suertes. Pero tú, Señor, eres fuerza. Por no te alejes, ven pronto a mi ayuda. Líbrame del filo de espada, no dejes que me maten los perros. Sálveme de la boca de los leones, defiéndeme de las cuerdas de sus dolores. Yo hablaré de ti en ciudades, y hablaré de ti en regiones. Ustedes los que aman al Señor, glorifíquenlo los que descienden de Jacob, adoren todos los descendientes de Israel. Pues él los precia y pasa por alto el sufrimiento de los jóvenes y se esconde de ellos. Él los oye cuando le piden ayuda. En presencia de un pueblo numeroso, a la ley y fidelidad, delante de los que honran y de promesas. Como ustedes los oprimidos, hasta que estén satisfechos. Alaben al Señor, ustedes los que lo buscan y vivan muchos años. Esas y naciones todas, gente de todos los rincones de la tierra, acuérdense del Señor y vengan a Él, arrodíllense delante de Él, porque el Señor es el Rey y Él gobierna las naciones. Inclínense, que lo tengo, solo a Él todos los que viven en abundancia, todos los que han por pues en sí mismos no tienen vida. Mis descendientes adorarán al Señor y hablarán de Él toda la vida. A los que nazcan después les contarán su justicia y de sus obras.
Lectura de Hebreo. Jesús, el Hijo de Dios. Él es nuestro gran sumo sacerdote que ha entrado en el cielo. Por eso debemos seguir firme en la fe que profesamos, pues nuestro sumo sacerdote puede convencerse de nuestra debilidad, porque él también estuvo metido a las mismas pruebas que nosotros, solo que él jamás pecó. Acerquémonos, pues con confianza al trono de nuestro Dios amoroso, para el que tenga misericordia de nosotros y en su bondad nos ayude a la hora de la necesidad. Mientras Cristo estuvo viviendo aquí en el mundo, con voz fuerte y muchas lágrimas, oró y suplicó a Dios, que tenía poder para librarnos de la muerte, y por su obediencia Dios lo escuchó. Así que Cristo, a pesar de ser hijo, sufriendo, aprendió lo que es la obediencia. y al perfeccionar de esa manera llegó a ser muerte de salvación eterno para todos los que lo obedecen. Palabra de Dios.
Demos gracias a Dios.
Jesus went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden. Which he and his disciples entered, now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew of the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas brought a detachment of soldiers together with the police from the chief priests and the Pharisees. And they came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing what was to happen to him, came forward and asked them,
Whom are you looking for?
Jesus of Nazareth. He answered,
Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus replied,
I am he.
Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, I am he, they stepped back and fell to the ground. Again, he asked them,
Whom are you looking for?
and they said,
Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus answered,
I told you that I am he. So if you are looking for me, let these men go.
This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. I did not lose a single one of those whom you gave me. And Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear. The slave's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter,
Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?
So the soldiers, their officer, and the Jewish police arrested him and bound him. First they took him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest of the year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it was better to have one person die for the people. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since the disciples was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest, but Peter was standing outside at the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the woman who was guarding the gate, and he brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter,
You are not also one of the men's disciples, are you?
Peter said,
I am not.
Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it, warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered,
I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said.
When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying,
Is that how you answer to the high priest?
Jesus answered,
If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me?
Then Ananias sent him to bound Caiaphas the high priest. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They asked him,
You are not also one of the disciples, are you?
Peter denied it and said,
I am not.
One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked,
Did I not see you in the garden with him?
Again, Peter denied it, and at that moment the cock crowed. Then they took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the headquarters, so as to avoid ritual defilement and to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate went out to them and said,
"What accusation do you bring against this man?"
They answered,
If this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you.
Pilate said to them,
"Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law."
The Jews replied,
We are not permitted to put anyone to death.
this was to fulfill what Jesus had said when he had indicated the kind of death he was to die. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus and asked him,
"Are you the king of the Jews?"
Jesus answered,
You asked this of your own accord, or did others tell you about me?
Pilate replied,
"I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?"
Jesus answered,
My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here.
Pilate asked him.
"So you are a king?"
Jesus answered,
You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice.
Pilate asked him.
"What is truth?"
After he had said this, he went out to the Jews again and told them,
"I find no case against him. But you have a custom that I release someone for you at the Passover. Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?"
They shouted in reply,
Not this man, but Barabbas.
Now Barabbas was a bandit. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. And the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they dressed him in a purple robe. They kept coming up and saying to him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews, and striking him on the face. Pilate went out again and said to them,
"Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no case against him."
So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them,
"Here is the man."
When the chief priests and the priests saw him, they shouted,
Crucify him! Crucify him!
Pilate said to them,
"Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him."
The Jews answered him,
We have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die, because he has claimed to be the Son of God.
Now when Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever. He entered his headquarters again and asked Jesus.
"Where are you from?"
But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him,
"Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?"
Jesus answered him,
You would have no power over me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin.
From then on, Pilate tried to release him. The Jews cried out,
If you release this man, you are no friend of the emperor. Anyone who claims to be a king sets himself against the emperor.
When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus outside and sat on the judge's bench at a place called the Stone Pavement, or in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation for the Passover, and it was about noon. Pilate said to the Jews,
"Here is your king."
They cried out.
Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!
Pilate asked them.
"Shall I crucify your king?"
The chief priests answered.
We have no king but the emperor.
Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. Then they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, with Jesus between them. Pilate also laid an inscription written and put on the cross. It said, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. And the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate,
"Do not write the King of the Jews, but this man said, I am King of the Jews."
Pilate answered,
What I have written, I have written.
When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, one for each soldier. They also took his tunic. Now the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top. So they said to one another,
"Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see who will get it."
This was to fulfill what the scriptures said. They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. And that is what the soldiers did. Meanwhile, standing near the cross, Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved beside her, he said to his mother,
"Woman, here is your son.
Then he said to the disciple,
Here is your mother."
And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own house. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, "I am thirsty." A jar filled with sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of wine on the branch of a hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus received the wine, he said,
"It is finished."
Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Since it was the day of preparation, the Jews did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, especially because the Sabbath was a day of great solemnity. So they asked Pilate to have the legs of the crucified men broken and the bodies removed. Then the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once the blood and water came out. He who saw this has testified, so that you may also believe. His testimony is true, and he knows that he tells the truth. These things occurred so that the scripture might be fulfilled. None of his bones shall be broken. And again, another passage of the scripture says, they will look on one whom they had pierced. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission. So he came and removed his body. Nicodemus, who had at first come to Jesus by night, also came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloe, weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it in the spices and linen cloth, according to the burial customs of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in that garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever lain. And so, because this was a Jewish day of preparation, and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Dios mío, ¿por qué me has abandonado? God, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know, we as Episcopalians have a theology that focuses very heavily on the incarnation. Como episcopales americanos tenemos una teología que enfoca mucho en la encarnación. And for us, the incarnation is much more than just Christmas. It means that God participates with us in life. And by God becoming a human being, God sanctifies all of creation. And God is present in all of creation. No solamente para nosotros la encarnación es mucho más que solo la natividad, sino quiere decir que en llegar a ser humano, Dios llegó a unirse con toda la creación y Dios está en todos los lados y en toda la creación y lo santifica con su presencia. Entonces, para que uno diga, Dios mío, ¿por qué me has abandonado? Es una tragedia inmensa. Es una tribulación del alma a nivel existencial. So to get to the point where we would say, my God, why have you forsaken me, really represents an existential torture of enormous magnitude. How could this be? ¿Cómo puede ser que si Dios está en todos lados, yo lo siento como ausente? How can it be that if God is everywhere and in everything, I do not sense God's presence now? ¿Cómo puede ser que Dios esté ausente? It can't be that God is absent. No puede ser. And yet, how many of us have felt that way? How many of us have felt that God was just not there? And generally, precisely when we wish God was there. ¿Cuántos hemos querido la presencia de Dios, especialmente en esos momentos difíciles? Y nos sentimos como que Dios no está. Y la ausencia de Dios nos trae esa angustia interna. That absence of God causes that internal anguish. Well, Jesus, even though Jesus was God, Jesus was human, and in that bringing together, Jesus also experiences that sort of anguish that we all feel. Cristo siendo Dios, pero también siendo humano, uniendo las dos, Cristo también siente esa angustia. And those words from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me, follow an ancient and well-revered Jewish pattern. Esas palabras de Jesús recobran una tradición antigua y muy conocida entre los judíos. Y es la tradición del lamento. It is the tradition of the lament. Y los salmos, especialmente, hay muchos salmos de lamento, y el Salmo 22 que acabamos de leer juntos es un salmo de lamento. The first words of Psalm 22 that Jesus said, Psalm 22 is one of the great tradition of Psalms of lament found throughout the book of Psalms and in other places in the Old Testament. And the Psalms of lament all have the same structure. Tienen la misma estructura. Cada salmo de lamento empiezan con una gran queja. They begin with a great complaint. Something's wrong with the world. Where are you, God? Algo está mal. ¿Dónde estás, Dios? You need to be here and you're not. You need to defend us from your enemies and you're not. Tienes que defendernos de nuestros enemigos y no lo estás haciendo. Debes estar aquí y no estás. The complaints are myriad, and throughout the book of Psalms, these Psalms of lament trace through all those ugly, difficult, dark, heavy feelings we have, and they bring them into the air, and they kind of air them out and own them. En esos salmos de lamento, todos esos sentimientos feos que no queremos sentir, que no queremos admitir, hasta nosotros mismos, los levanta y los planta delante de todos y los adueña, dice, así me siento. They're very honest.
They're brutally honest with the way we feel. Son bastante honestos con las maneras en que sentimos, especialmente esas maneras difíciles, especially those difficult things that we feel. And so Jesus starts this whole process with the words of lament. And the path is a path of descent. El camino es un camino de descenso. But the words of a psalm of lament almost never stay there. There are only one or two. They do not come out the other side somehow. Somehow that process of owning where we are completely honestly before God, by the end of the psalm, we find hope. En todos los salmos de lamento, menos unas pocas excepciones, pasamos por esos sentimientos y salimos por el otro lado. Empezamos con una gran queja y terminamos con una palabra de adoración, o de fe, o de confianza. A word of hope, a word of faith, a word of confidence, something. Es que cuando traemos todos esos sentimientos y los plantamos ante Dios, encontramos que hay una esperanza. El camino baja, pero al fin sube también. The path is a path of descent on Good Friday. But as Christians, we know that it doesn't stay there. It comes out the other side. Well, the path of descent is the world's path right now. Todo el mundo está pasando por el camino de descenso. We here in Washington State, we've begun to see the increase of the number of COVID cases to kind of begin to taper off, and we're looking at perhaps the peak. And our president would like the peak to have already happened. Well, I've got news for him and everybody else who might feel that way. If you look at the globe, the peak isn't here yet. The worst is yet to come. Tal vez aquí en el estado de Washington el aumento de los casos de COVID está reduciéndose un poco. Es que aquí llegó primero, entonces estamos adelantados de más de todos los demás. Y nuestro presidente desea que el tope de los casos pase ya para que podamos abrir otra vez la economía. Pero noticia, palabra para él y para todos los demás que piensan así. A nivel global, a nivel del mundo, el peor está todavía por venir. Estamos en un camino de descenso. We are on a path of descent. But as Christians, como cristianos, sabemos we have hope. Tenemos una esperanza that the path will not only be descent. It will not end there. It will begin to rise. Subiremos algún día. Pasaremos por lo más profundo y subiremos. ¿Por qué? Por la cruz. Because we know Jesus on the cross says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And he descends to the very bottom. And we must descend to the bottom too. And we'll find that we know that we will rise because Jesus says, my path of descent went to hell and back. And it will be okay. And so fear not, little ones of mine, mis ovejas, mis queridos ovejas, no tengan miedo. Tal vez el paso de su vida es un descenso. Tal vez el camino del mundo es un descenso. Maybe your personal path right now is a descent. Certainly the path of the world is descent. But we will rise again. Even as we descend on Good Friday, we cling to the hope of Easter Sunday. Aún en el momento de descender el día Viernes Santo, mantenemos la esperanza del domingo de resurrección. Nombre de Dios Padre, Hijo y Espíritu Santo.
Amado pueblo de Dios, nuestro Padre Celestial envió a su Hijo al mundo no para condenarlo, sino para que el mundo por medio de él pudiera ser salvado, para que cuando crean en él sean liberados del poder del pecado y de la muerte, y lleguen a ser herederos con el de la vida eterna. Por tanto, oremos por todas las personas, en todos los lugares, según sus necesidades. Oremos por la Santa Iglesia Católica de Cristo, esparcida por todo el mundo.
For its unity, its witness and service, for all bishops and other ministers and the people whom they serve, for Greg and Michael, our bishops, and all the people of this diocese, for all Christians in this community.
Para que Dios confirme a su Iglesia en la fe, la acreente en el amor y en la conserve del paz.
Almighty and everlasting God, by whose Spirit the whole body of your faithful people is covered and sanctified, receive our supplications and prayers which we offer before you for the members of your holy church, that in their vocation and ministry they may truly and devoutly serve you, for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Let us pray for all nations and peoples of the earth, and for those in authority among them.
Por todo el presidente de esta nación, por el Congreso y la Corte Suprema, por los miembros y representantes de las Naciones Unidas, por cuanto sirven al bien común.
That by God's help they may seek justice and truth, and live in peace and concord.
Dios omnipotente, te suplicamos en cada corazón el verdadero amor a la paz, y dirige con tu sabiduría a los que deberán en nombre de las naciones de las tierras, para que en tranquilidad tu señorío aumenta hasta que toda la tierra se calme con el conocimiento de tu amor, por Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Oremos por todos los que sufren y están afligidos en cuerpo o en mente.
For the hungry and the homeless, the destitute and the oppressed, for the sick, the wounded, and the crippled, for those in loneliness, fear, and anguish, for those who face temptation, doubt, and despair, for the sorrowful and bereaved, for prisoners and captives, and those in mortal danger.
Para que Dios en su misericordia les conceda y alivie, les conceda el conocimiento de su amor y estimule en nosotros la voluntad y la paciencia para administrar a sus necesidades.
Gracious God, the comfort of all who sorrow, the strength of all who suffer, let the cry of those in misery and need come to you, that they may find your mercy present with them in all their afflictions. And give us, we pray, the strength to serve them for the sake of him who suffered for us, your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.
Let us pray for all who have not received the gospel of Christ.
Por los que nunca han oído la palabra de salvación, por los que han perdido la fe, por los que se han endurecido a causa del pecado o la indiferencia, por los que desprecian y hacen escarnio del Evangelio, por los que son enemigos de la cruz de Cristo y persiguen a sus discípulos, por los que en nombre de Cristo han perseguido a otros.
That God will open their hearts to the truth and lead them to faith and obedience. Merciful God, creator of all the peoples of earth and lover of souls, have compassion on all who do not know you as you are revealed in your Son, Jesus Christ. Let your gospel be preached with grace and power to those who have not heard it, Turn the hearts of those who resist it, and bring home to your fold those who have gone astray, that there may be one flock under one shepherd, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Encomendémonos a nuestro Dios y pidámosle la gracia de una vida santa, para que con todos cuantos han partido de este mundo y han muerto en la paz de Cristo, y con aquellos cuya fe solo Dios conoce, seamos hallados dignos de entrar en la plenitud del gozo de nuestro Señor, y recibamos la corona de vida en el día de la resurrección. O God of unchangeable power and eternal light, look favorably on your whole church, that wonderful and sacred mystery. By the effectual working of your providence, carry out in tranquility the plan of salvation. Let the whole world see and know that things which were cast down are being raised up, and things which had grown old are being made new, and that all things are being brought to their perfection by him through whom all things were made, your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Let us confess our sins against God and our neighbor.
Most merciful God, confesemos que hemos pecado contra ti, por pensamiento, palabra y obra, por lo que hemos hecho y lo que hemos dejado de hacer. No te hemos amado con todo el corazón, no hemos amado a nuestro prójimo como nosotros mismos. Sincera y firmemente nos arrepentimos. Por amor de tu Hijo Jesucristo, ten piedad de nosotros y perdónanos. Así tu voluntad será nuestra alegría. Andaremos por tus caminos para gloria de tu nombre. Dios omnipotente tenga misericordia de ustedes, perdone todos sus pecados por Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Les fortalece en toda bondad y por el poder del Espíritu Santo les concede la vida eterna. Amén.
Let us pray as our Savior Christ has taught us. Our Father, Lord,
santificado sea tu nombre. Venga tu reino, hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en tentación y líbranos del mal. Tuyo es el reino, tuyo es el poder, y tuya es la gloria, ahora y siempre. Oh Señor Jesucristo, Hijo de Dios vivo, te suplicamos que pongas tu pasión y tu cruz y tu muerte entre tu juicio y nuestras almas, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Concede misericordia y gracia a los vivos, perdón y descanso a los difuntos, paz y concordia a tu santa iglesia, y a nosotros pecadores la vida y la gloria eternas. Tú que vives y reinas con el Padre en la unidad del Espíritu Santo, un solo Dios por los siglos de los siglos. Amen. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, we pray you to set your passion, cross, and death between your judgment and our souls, now and in the hour of our death. Give good mercy and guidance and grace to the living, pardon and rest to the dead, to your holy church peace and comfort, and to us sinners everlasting life and glory. For with the Father and the Holy Spirit you live and reign, one God, now and forever. Amen. This concludes our Good Friday liturgy for this evening. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you all tomorrow at 6 o'clock for the great Easter Vigil.